Hi, this is Carrie Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the RZA right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest.
Fred Armisen.
Prince Paul.
Javier Munoz. Seth Meyers.
Frankie Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talkhouse Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Talkhouse Podcast. I'm Josh Modell. On this week's episode, we're giving a nod to the heavier end of things with a conversation between George Clarke of Deafheaven and Jae Matthews of Boy Harsher. Now, Deafheaven is the impossible-to-pin-down metal band that has pushed genre boundaries since breaking out with 2013's epic Sunbather. They've been the subject of much debate in the heavy music community over the years, since they've wiggled elements of shoegaze and even Brit rock into the world of black metal. It's been a fascinating journey to watch as the band navigates its own muse, seemingly without regard to any genre lines that might exist. 2021's Infinite Granite took a pretty huge leap toward a more accessible sound, while this year's Lonely People with Power heads back into the darkness, even as it's produced by the pop-leaning Justin Meldal-Johnson, whose name comes up in this chat. The other half of today's conversation is Jae Matthews, who's also half of the darkwave/cold wave band Boy Harsher. Deeply influenced by film, the duo's most recent album, The Runner, serves as a sort of soundtrack to a world they continue to imagine, one full of synths, beats, and lots of mood. As you'll hear in this chat, Boy Harsher has been busy writing new material in a way they haven't before. But in the meantime, Matthews contributed some striking vocals to a truly striking song on the new Deafheaven record. Check out a little bit of Incidental II right here, though obviously you'll need to listen to the entire thing to really get where it's coming from.
It's so good to be alone with someone.
In this conversation, Clarke and Matthews talk about DJing versus performing, about finding inspiration in solitude, about whether being sober hurts or helps a performance, and of course about Matthews' contribution to Deafheaven's Lonely People with Power. Enjoy.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. Where in the world are you right now?
I am home right now. I'm in Western Massachusetts. Last week, I was in LA and San Francisco for a little bit.
Yeah, you were DJing?
DJing a club called Rhonda Parties. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but both events were really fun. One was in San Francisco and the other one was in LA at Los Globos.
Nice.
Yeah, a good crowd and high energy. The DJ thing is like always a little strange for me because I'm not much of a DJ. Gus is the DJ within our little pact. And sometimes I get very, very insecure and nervous. But then when the parties are fun, it's okay. You just dance and have fun.
Are you doing this alone or are you doing it together?
Together. Not really back to back the way that real DJs do it. I don't know. I hesitate to say real too, because that makes me feel like I'm diminishing myself. But Gus is very good at this, and he beat matches and he does all this like shit with the thing to make it cool, like extending the songs, and it's very complicated. And my mode of DJing is really just playing songs I want to hear, and it's not that captivating. Thus, when we DJ together, it really just turns into I get to pick like a couple songs and be like, wait, play this one next. And Gus either is like, I'm into something right now, I'm not going to do that. Or he'll be like, oh, weird idea. Okay, play it,
There's been only a few times that Carrie and I have DJ'd, usually like after shows or something. There'll be like an after party or whatever. And quote, Deafheaven will DJ.
Oh, yeah.
It's sort of the same thing. He actually does everything, and I just get to stand and scream songs at him that I want to hear in the moment. And sometimes it works, and most often it doesn't, because like I'm just in my own weird little world.
Yeah, that's exactly the style that we're talking about. What is that called? But we both do it,
Yeah, it's great. We'll call it DJing.
Oftentimes, my insecurity is based on the fact that the music we make is dance music. So people really assume you're going to be playing a crazy high energy techno dance set, which Gus provides. But if I were to DJ alone, I would probably just like DJ Alice in Chains. You know, like I would not abide by the dance rules at all.
Yeah, it's much easier for us, probably because within the context of our band, people are surprised by anything that we like outside the larger metal world. So we will play heady stuff, but it's not required. And even the most mainstream thing, say, gets like head turns from our audience who might be there.
Yeah, I mean, what is a good example of one of those songs you'd scream at Carrie to play?
I guess an example of like taste differences, for this tour that we just got home from, which we just did like North America, we like kind of created a radio station that plays songs in between the bands that were opening for us. And then we have like a dedicated playlist that happens for the half hour before we go on stage that has like, we call it like, it's like Lonely People with Power Radio. We got like different women that we're friends with to do little taglines and bumpers and things. And then it'll play kind of like a mood setting thing.
Cool.
Yeah, which worked great. Especially because like the bands playing before us were pretty heavy. So it sort of allowed for this palate cleanse. But Carrie's playing like One O Tricks Point Never and Bicep and kind of things like that. And I'm playing like Brenda Lee, you know.
Oh my God.
Or, you know, what I've been really into is this song Funeral Canticle by John Tavener.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
It's just this, he's like this like Orthodox Christian composer. It's just like choral music essentially. And it's actually like a 25-minute track, you know. Point being, the taste differences are, you know, pretty apparent, but we make it work. It just creates a mood, I guess, overall. What about you? Like the thing that is that we can't do Alice in Chains. You could do Alice in Chains. For you, that is like an interesting within your context of what you do musically.
Maybe. I don't know. I've been DJing very casually under the moniker Jesse's World. And when I do that, that's when I play anything, you know, that occurs to me, and it's sloppy. Like I'll shut off songs and just turn one on. But when Gus and I are DJing together, I'll sneak in ABBA. I'm a big fan of Lay All Your Love on Me because that's just like an anthem, you know, and you can really drop it anywhere in the set. It's a really good restarter because it has this synth opening that's like a little quiet. So even if you're going from high energy, you can like pilot it down, but then it starts like the first hit is like a drum hit and it's just this big song that's like kind of about someone, like don't waste your time on someone, but then also like give me all your affection. It's a confusing song.
Yeah. It's just intended to make you feel.
But like Gus and I don't want to become professional DJs. So I think we just need to pivot back to the purpose. And the purpose is really Boy Harsher, you know?
Does it warm you up or like get you back in the mood, say, to do Boy Harsher? Like sometimes I know after like we put out an album and we tour heavily on it or something, we'll get a little burnt, I guess. We'll sort of take a break, separate ourselves from even just the idea of Deafheaven for a while and kind of pursue other things. And then slowly you sort of get back on your feet. Do you feel that DJing helps with that?
No, but other things would, right? DJing to me just feels at times like an unnecessary distraction. However, that feeling though of being exhausted and needing space to do your own thing, I totally believe in that. I think it's more that DJing doesn't serve that purpose for me.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally just got off tour, I feel like a week ago, right?
Yeah, like 5 days ago.
How do you stay functional on such a long tour?
Yeah, I think there's a small amount of fatigue. We're still pretty early on in the cycle and I am used to a lot of time on the road. In fact, prior to this, I was missing it quite a bit. We didn't do much touring last year because we were making the record, and I definitely got the itch. I think at this point, I've been touring in various degrees for like 20 years. So it's in a way, it's kind of part of my being. And it does take me a little while to get like fully burnt out. We have a lot on this year. I think maybe by the end of the year, I'll be like, okay, I need a few months of like real dedicated recharge. But for now, I feel good. Yeah. In fact, we're leaving for Europe in 8 days,
Wow.
and we'll be there for a month. And I feel okay. This just feels like a little reprieve. That said, I went and saw Dive the other night,
Yeah.
who are good friends of mine, and ended up just texting one of them to say like, hey, fantastic show, without going backstage, and kind of apologized, admitting that my social capacity was at a low, even though I did have the wherewithal to go see live music still.
Tell me how you feel about this, but as I get older, I think that's where I lose patience quicker. It's in social scenarios. I don't think I'm grumpier, but I also, for the first time in my life, maybe this year, 2025, I found myself having this thought of, it might be nice just to stay home and wash my hair.
I definitely get that. Or even if I'm going out choosing to do other things, I've been really into like, in LA, there's always like kind of specialty screenings of movies.
Yeah.
And I do that a lot. I go to movies alone a lot, and I will opt to do that instead of go to a show, which is funny. And never would I have done that when I was younger. But yeah, there can be obviously certain shows and stuff where that it's going to be a real social occasion.
Yeah.
And for those, I have to prepare myself a little bit more. I'm not so eager like I used to be, where we call them like cigarette smoking shows, where like you wouldn't even go see the band. Everyone would just be on the patio the whole time smoking and drinking. And like, that was...
You're talking about Zebulon. That's it.
I am talking about Zebby. Yeah, like, oh, such and such is playing. Great. I'm going to see 40 people I know. I'm never going to go inside. I'm going to have a great time.
Yeah. I get show anxiety now, which I can only attribute to being like this musician or whatever. I mean, I guess I need to get comfortable calling myself that, but for 10 years. So now when I go to a show, it's like PTSD or recall. I'm not able to relax because it's like, wait, I should be doing something. And then it's like, no, you're not a part of the show. Like, chill out. You get to see it and experience it. And I can't, it's almost as if playing live music has ruined the live music experience for me.
I hear that. Do you feel watched in those situations where like you sort of almost don't know how to act, or you can't just be like a fun observer because someone's like thinking like, oh, there's Jay over there? Does that ever happen to you?
I mean, only in LA, maybe.
Yeah, LA.
I live in a small place. I live in Western Massachusetts, where truthfully no one could give a fuck about who I am and who my band is. LA is this strange vortex where I don't regard myself as a famous person or even an important person, but you'll wind up in certain scenarios where you are truly surrounded by people who are giving you that what for. And then you have to like reconcile the feelings you have about yourself to like what they think about you. And yeah, I went to see my friend play last year, I remember, in LA, Geneva Jacuzzi, who I know you know. And it's an amazing show, but there were like too many people kind of getting close to me. You know that feeling where people just want to get like a little bit closer and closer.
Of course. You're talking with someone. All of a sudden, someone's just standing next to you with a drink. Was this is a lodge room? Yeah.
Yeah.
I too was there. Yeah, it was a big social occasion. I don't even know if we had met at that point, but I was thinking that the first time that we did meet, which was very brief, was also one of those shows. I think it was Uniform at Zebulon, and it was a who's who of the dark underground.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was definitely a cigarette smoking on the patio show.
Yeah.
So that's a good example of being able to disregard some of this social energy. I watched all of Uniform and I remember feeling like the show had a profound effect on me, mainly because of the performance style of the vocalists. I'm friends with Greenberg, but I don't really know the vocalists.
Yeah, Berdan.
And the weird song that it's not weird, but the a cappella thing
Mhm.
that had just such an impact on me that night. And so I'm glad that I wasn't just outside ripping Stokes like I normally would be.
He is extremely captivating, very intense. We took them and Drab Majesty out in 2018.
Fun.
Yeah, very, very fun tour, as you can imagine.
Sounds like a party tour.
You know what? Actually, funny enough, it was it was the first tour that I had done since I had stopped partying.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I remember thinking before it, how am I going to do this? And thankfully, I knew everyone well enough to where like it was going to be a good hang no matter what.
Yeah.
But I was, a little bit anxious because, we've all partied before. It's a fun thing to do. Yeah.
I'm curious about sober touring. My bandmate is also sober, and I've been practicing a lot of moderation. I realized that I couldn't play a show without having like 3 solid drinks in me. And this year just felt like the year that I should maybe confront part of that. Obviously, it was like my coping mechanism for being on stage fright, social anxiety. And now I'm trying very hard to kind of conceive of tour as a experience that I don't need to be drunk every night, and I wonder what it's been like because it has been years for you.
Yeah. It's funny because music making is such a kind of internal, insular sort of experience. You're very much working within a vacuum. And when you work within a vacuum for a pretty extended amount of time, your personality reflects that. It's a bit more antisocial and a bit more focused. And then you have to throw all of that away and do the exact opposite. You have to give your biggest self for the stage, and you have to be 10 feet tall all of a sudden, and you have to orchestrate a sort of experience for your audience. And I think that transferring from one to the other for a lot of people is very difficult. You really do end up with a sort of split personality.
Yeah.
And I think alcohol truly helps with that. It helps that transition because it is pretty extreme, I think. So I was the same way. It was a lot of drinking to feel confident enough to go on stage and command in that way and to be that 10-foot tall person. And to be honest with you, I really initially did not think I was going to be able to replicate what I could do with alcohol as a sober performer, especially at festivals and things like that, where you're talking about like, thousands and thousands of people. Like, how am I going to be able to be this character that is not my usual self? But, much like learning to swim or something, you just jump in the deep end and try not to die. And that's kind of what that first tour was. And what I found was there were other things to focus on that made me feel confident in my sort of new state of performing, which was like my endurance increased heavily. My focus increased heavily. I could vocalize easier. Alcohol dries your throat out.
Yeah.
And I would actually, because the singing that I do, it has a certain amount of intensity, I would blow my voice out much easier. And I found that there were actually all these sort of physical strengths that increased in sober performing. And that gave me a different kind of confidence. And that confidence, which is a much more genuine sense of confidence, allowed me to be that 10-foot tall person.
Wow.
I truly believe I'm a much better performer sober, and I fear what I might be like if I was on stage hammered again.
What an analogy. Being 10 foot. I think a lot of performers are attempting to be someone else on stage. Regardless, like maybe it is a 10-foot person, strong, like strength. And you're right, though, you are leading your audience and you need a lot of confidence to be able to do that. I mean, I drink because I want to not have focus. When I'm hyper focused on stage, that's when I mess up the most. It's a very weird, kind of complicated relationship I have to being an overthinker, and a very anxious person.
No, I get that completely. I call it like second brain. It's like when my body is doing something, or, when I have this sort of primary focus in front of me, it actually frees up my creative brain to speak easier, to make, I think, better sense of what I'm saying.
The muscle memory, right? It's like this cyborgian experience.
Yeah. You're in another zone.
Yeah.
And alcohol can do that. It can like put you in this strange thing that allows the kind of fluid, creative self to take over, which is like, again, it kind of is like your confidence. You're like, you're able to perform without messing up. You have it. It's all taken care of because your first brain is, in the scrambler a little bit, which is like
silenced. You've shut it down.
And in the same way that whiskey does that, driving kind of does that. Or like I like to run a lot, and I get a lot of like thinking done when I do because my first brain is silenced by preoccupation.
Wow. I need to try running.
It's awful.
I know. I hear it. Obviously I've run and I don't like it.
Yeah, it's masochism.
Well, okay. So when we met, you were in studio with Justin Meldal-Johnson.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask, how long were you in studio with Justin?
Goodness. We were there for a while. We had basically 2 recording phases. The first of which happened at East West, which was like in a big studio. We track everything live in a live room. So everyone's playing together. It's full run throughs.
Wow.
And then just tons and tons of takes of each track, including me. In fact, most of my vocals were done in that period. So I'm actually tracking with the band.
Wow.
Yeah, which is really nice because you sort of siphon their energy, and it helps you. It's like playing a show. I always felt like I sounded better live than in studio because I had the adrenaline to have a stronger voice.
Sure.
And this sort of helped with that. I think that was like 2 weeks. And then by the time that's done, like all drums, all bass, most guitars, and most vocals are finished. So that's all done pretty quickly. And then Justin's house, which is where we track together, that phase went for a while. I want to say like 9 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's sort of like the more fun parts. Like we're doing guitar layers, and that's where all the synths come in. And it's a lot of like creative work. It's also a lot of really meticulous work. The thing about Justin is he's very, very meticulous.
Yeah.
And he's very into like dialing tones and sounds, and he's very into experimenting. So things just take a little while. Altogether, it felt like a 5-month process, something.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's great. I mean, it's truly a luxury. Our older records, like most well-known album, Sunbather, we did in 5 days.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And then had it had it mixed and mastered by the same guy that recorded it. So it wasn't like
Huh.
not a huge thing, you know? Tell me about your process. Like, what is it like for you making an album?
Sure. Yeah. It's a little different than the quote unquote traditional Boy Harsher methodology, but parts of it remain the same, right? So Gus, who is my bandmate, will develop. Oh, yeah. It's important to mention, I guess, like we just work out of our studio at home. Yeah. We've never really worked with a producer. I think that's like why I'm so fascinated by spending 9 weeks with Justin Meldal-Johnson, because that's cool. I call that the third entity or the third person, which feels important. Someone who's not within the band to give their opinion and float ideas without the pressure of being in the band. But I digress. The way we work is Gus will develop a very, very simple sound. We're an electronic band, and we also exhibit the tenets of minimal synth music sometimes. So the beginning working of any song is so simple. It's mostly a bass line, limited percussion, and maybe a synth pad. And when we have this incredibly skeletal thing, then I take it and I just try to sing on it, just try to develop a melody over it. I'm not even thinking about lyrics. I'm just trying to understand if my voice gels with what Gus has developed. And it's choose your own adventure in that sense, because if I'll record a little bit, send it back to Gus, and he has this ability to be like, well, it's not working, or maybe I hear something in there. I'm going to make this song a little more complex. And then it's time for me to write an actual melody. It's time for me to start thinking about lyrics. We've been doing this process in particular remotely. Before we would do it together, right? Like within the house in the studio, where he would play me something and be like, come in here, like, let's try to do something. But this whole year, I mean, even starting last year, our practice, we wanted to try it separately. We talked about this a lot, you and me, George, but I had this extreme bout of writer's
Like
block.
a block, yeah.
I had a huge block, and it kind of began after my mom died in 2023. And it felt like there was some type of emotional disconnect that was preventing me from being able to write. So with Boy Harsher, our writing process for this new album didn't really begin until last year. And I just started driving. Like I was like, okay, I know that in January I'm going to have to write, so I will try to do that in Texas. I rented a random Airbnb in West Texas, but in November, like probably early November, because I was really avoiding the winter holidays. Those are the ones that make me the most sad. I just started driving. I drove down the coast and to Florida and to Texas and traveled to LA and Miami, was just all over the place in hopes of maybe collecting some life experience that I could then push into the music that I would have to be writing in January. Some of the tracks are so old. That's the crazy thing. Like some of these songs are rejected songs from 2020, 2021, before we released The Runner.
Carrie, our guitar player, our main songwriter, and we work in a very similar fashion.
Okay.
Where he has something that is skeletal. He will bring it to our drummer. None of the leads and stuff are put on it yet, which hold most of our melodic portion. And it's mostly just rhythm. He sends it to me. My vocal is also pretty non-melodic or wholly non-melodic. And so I basically build my own rhythmic patterns within their structure.
Yeah.
And then they build on that. Then I build more. Then we change. And We are almost never together, though. Only after it gets to a certain point of back and forths do we decide to get in the same room and see how it meshes. Has this current process made you sort of think like, oh, I prefer to be in the room?
When I began with the writing, the demoing, we can say, in Texas, it was really hard. I was alone. I'm not used to being alone. Boy Harsher is a project that to me represents a connection between two people. So at first, it was really foreign and really tough. I love the desert, but there's nothing like the loneliness of the desert, you know? And I just felt like maybe this is the end of it, which stinks because the reason why we're deciding to do it remotely was because it was so difficult writing together in the studio. But then after a couple weeks of this new process, it got easier and I developed some confidence because it afforded me something that I never had before, which was total experimentation, right?
Yes.
Usually when I was demoing out something, I would be demoing it out in front of Gus and I would be super aware of his reaction, which more times than not was critical, you know, and that will shut you down immediately. When you're a vocalist too, like your instrument is your body. And I've tried to explain this and I still haven't articulated it, but when someone rejects your body, it's such a deeper pain than maybe like, oh, I hit the wrong key on the synth, or, oh, I'm having trouble playing the A chord. And so I think that 2 to 3 weeks into my sojourn in Marfa, Texas, I was able to loosen up and be like, whatever, I'm going to just like sing however I want. I'm going to just say whatever I want. And that looseness enabled me to start putting stuff into the world that was working. And I think that's when Gus and I then were on a roll, so to speak, or able to narrow down those, like, they weren't even songs yet, but like blobs. We were able to figure out what blobs were working and would exist on the new album and what probably won't work. Even though there have been some songs that have been rejected that I'm like, these are amazing. Like, why are we rejecting this? You know, but that's how it works too sometimes. Not all of them, like my neighbor says about the baby turtles, they're a rite of spring, but not all of them make it, you know?
I so often will have a riff or a melody that will get changed in the 11th hour, and I'll like go literally in the room be like, no, like why are we getting rid of this?
Yeah.
And there's this consensus that the new version is better, which ultimately like I acquiesce to and I agree with or whatever. But initially I always push back. I think what you said about working in isolation as a vocalist, at least initially, to get those like first set of ideas down, that for me is what makes it so important because it is such an open playing field.
Yeah.
And you're being given this, pretty broad palette. I don't know about you, but for me, it's certainly never the first thing that I put down. I usually have to get something out, listen to it over and over before I realize like, oh, this isn't it. I have like a total second idea. And then typically I refine my second idea when I'm with someone, say Carrie, and we're like, because we have done this, not everything has been done in isolation. Usually I'm altering until the final tracking.
That is kind of fascinating to me because we have talked about lyric writing a little bit before, especially when I am I still in my writer's block mode? So I was asking all of my vocalist friends like about their process. And I remember you saying that you will kind of come to the music with an idea in mind. And I imagine with this latest album, it's a concept album. So does that mean that you're bringing like a global idea to every song lyrically?
I think It's more that the global idea appears as you're writing.
Mm.
Like for me, there have been things on my mind that I've wanted to say. Like sometimes I'll just write. And in that writing, I'll be like, okay, this is kind of starting to, I see what I'm sort of aiming at here, at least emotionally or what have you.
Yeah.
And then it kind of develops from there. And I look at everything I've written and I see through lines there. I'm like, oh God, I'm really talking about observations on sex as a young person. Or I'm really,
Right.
I'm talking like, wow, like it's clear to me now that like I'm talking about aspects of my upbringing or,
Yeah.
you know, these kinds of things sort of emerge. And then it's your choice whether or not you want to let that be, or if you want to put a hard focus on it and create something that's more conceptual from it and be like, okay, like I'm going to lean in here. Like for this record, you know, it wasn't initially intended to have so many like hard concepts,
Interesting.
but it, you know, it sort of chose me. Then we start titling things appropriately. Then we start creating ideas for artwork that are appropriate, ideas for video work that are appropriate. And then you sort of kind of world build from there.
So maybe you had some internal fixation, and then because of that, you were able to package everything into the same world.
You sort of just recognize your obsessions.
Right.
You know, I was like, oh yeah, like I'm clearly obsessed with with like A, B, and C. How can I apply that in a way that is like clear and meaningful?
Yeah. And yeah, maybe too, it's part of processing your childhood, and which is good that we're artists, right? We get to maybe live off of public therapy.
Oh, absolutely. It's a real privilege to be able to take, you know, things that most people hide or work through privately, and with like collaboration, make them beautiful. How do you like to express what you do in a visual sense? What to you is important to get across visually?
I mean, it's funny because the last technically album that we released was The Runner, which when we were developing that and creating the songs, we decided we wanted to make a film accompaniment with it, which was a total dream, you know? And I think in a perfect world, I would be able to do that for every album. There's obviously a resource and time shortage, but with The Runner, we were all locked in during COVID, and it just was like, okay, whatever. Like now, finally, I can write this cryptic, strange movie about a woman who is running from something, but she also might be interested in eating people. Not to spoil my movie to everyone, but that visual world is so important to me and an integral part of Boy Harsher. Growing up, I wanted to be a filmmaker. I wanted to be a screenwriter. So in a perfect world, in the dream world, I would be able to make a album that has a film accompaniment every time, which isn't feasible. Maybe someday it will be feasible, but currently not feasible. The way that we reconcile it is by using pieces of our film world in the album, or we will work on the videos for the singles and use pieces of that for album artwork. I mean, truthfully, I think the reason why I'm so fascinated by the world of Lonely People with Power is because it feels so cultivated and detail oriented, which is something I've desired for years when it comes to my releases. And we're such a DIY package that we don't really have the project management skills, you know, to be able to put it all together in a way that I think you guys really mastered. Even what you're talking about with the show, how you have this fake radio station playing in between the live acts that represents the world from which the album's coming from, right? Like that is such a finite detail, but it's so well done.
Yeah, no, thank you. Well, because it's sort of the same. Like we come from similar worlds. We've been DIY essentially for so long, and prior to this, have never really had the opportunity to do before video making.
Right.
And even like with this album, we were very lucky that we had so many creative people who were into the ideas enough to lend us their time and expertise at a friendly rate.
Nice.
And when you're not dealing with that, it's like I can't even imagine how expensive it could be.
Yeah.
And so we went with it. And yeah, I want to do it every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I really felt like with this one, I could like show them. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my God. George, I have to go pretty soon, but before I go, I'm not sure if I've told you about the first time I heard the song that you asked me to feature on.
Do tell.
So you sent the track and you warned me beforehand. You're like, we're calling these interludes, so it's not going to be that intense. I feel like you gave me some warning suggesting that it was going to be mellow. Maybe I'm making that up, but I always do my first listens in the car. I think that's like the most ideal place for me, at least, to hear music and participate in music. So you sent the track and I was like, okay, I'm going to save this for later tonight when I know I'll be driving around the middle of nowhere, Western Massachusetts. And I'm on a back farm road and I put it on and I'm like, holy moly, yeah, this is a really mellow one. And I just keep turning the volume up because I feel like I can't really hear it that well. And I'm like, okay, of course, the dude sent me kind of softball. It's just like a droney interlude. And then the drop, you can hear like the little scratching first. And I was like, oh, what is that? And then the drop happens and I almost crashed my car. Like I had to pull over on the side of this winding road just to like take a deep breath because it came maybe not out of nowhere because I should have known knowing you, but it was such a like huge moment. And that's when I felt like, okay, I need to do something on this song. I need to really, really show up for this.
It both sorry and elated that that's how your experience was.
Yeah. I mean, anyone who's heard it, I think obviously doesn't know that's coming unless it's like a second listen. And I think it gets everyone. And I love that part of it.
I had many texts with people kind of saying that, being like, oh, wow, that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's big because also, my performance, which we got to because you guys invited me to the studio, which again, thank you. That was such a special experience for me. I think we were able to channel maybe more of a lighter performance, this woman who's like vulnerable. So you do have the tendency to turn it up, right? You want to hear her vocal character. You want to hear what she's saying. And then the song just fucking runs over you with an 18-wheeler. It's so sick.
That's exactly how I feel about it. Before that happens, it's like the most intimate part of the record. I have one last question. It was something I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Because when we had been talking about lyric writing, when you had texted me those couple times and you were traveling quite a bit, sort of seeking inspiration maybe or what have you.
Yeah.
Between something like The Runner and its concept and this idea of driving and movement, how important in general is an idea of like perpetual motion to you? It seems to be a sort of theme.
It is something that I return to often, and I maybe need to investigate it a little bit because in all of my story writing with Boy Harsher or screenwriting, oftentimes the protagonist, the sign of survival is the escape, and I think that comes from this place within me that feels trapped, right? And a lot of times within our music, within our art, we're fantasizing and we're channeling something that we wish for ourselves. And part of the travel last year was exploratory. I've been trying to figure out where to move. And it's strange when you're a working artist. And also, we live in an age too where no longer you get a job and move to that city, and buy that cookie cutter suburban home. Life and livelihood is so much more fluid and bizarre and exists in like this digital sphere that I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are experiencing the same thing I am, which is I don't know where I belong. The reality is whatever, something cliche like home is where you make it or whatever. But like we're all seeking that place, or I think most people are seeking the place where they feel safe and comfortable and free, which is thematically something that I've been exploring forever.
I like that. It's funny. Deafheaven and by extension me is so wildly similar. And it's something that gets brought up time and time again in songs and concepts and something I've experienced forever. I think that might be the great spiritual link between our two projects.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and it's a little more complicated than like wanderlust. I think it's truly just this deep-seated sense of being unsettled and feeling that rockiness and wanting to find your footing,
Yeah, I absolutely know it well.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, George, I'm so glad I got to talk to you.
Yeah, me too. This is really, really nice. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the Talkhouse Podcast, and thanks to Jae Matthews and George Clarke for chatting. If you like what you heard, please follow Talkhouse on your favorite podcasting platform and check out all the great stuff at talkhouse.com. This episode was produced by Myron Kaplan, and the Talkhouse theme was composed and performed by The Range. See you next time.